In Mississauga, the election of a new Liberal leader also means losing a longtime mayor. Bonnie Crombie will be stepping down as head of the city at a time when there's a focus on building more housing and Peel region is set to dissolve.
Once the city has its own identity from the Peel region, which is going to be changing from 2024, then we'll have to see if the new person that's going to replace is going to work well for the city of Mississauga.
Yeah, of course, there's a concern with some residents, but hey, Bonnie Crombie is still not going to go away anywhere. She is still around, and she's moving into the position that she could be more help for Mississauga, so we're hopeful.
Crombie was the perceived frontrunner in the race, though it wasn't exactly smooth sailing to victory. She won on the third ballot in a face-off with more left-leaning Nate Erskine-Smith, something some Liberal opponents may point to.
Mayor Crombie has been MIA to the good people of Mississauga for the past 7+ months. We also were told by the media and others that this was going to be a landslide victory for her. She only won with 53% of the vote, and I think the Liberal Party is really divided right now.
But some party members say they aren't worried.
The fact is that when you're doing as poorly, shall we say, as we are, there's not a lot of luxury for infighting. And I think Liberals are going to come together. I think they're going to endorse her.
Crombie doesn't have a seat at Queen's Park, but former MPP John Malloy says he doesn't think that will hurt her.
She doesn't need to be in the legislature. Where she needs to be is both meeting with Liberals on the ground and then also being out in the local media, local events, chambers of commerce, that sort of thing.
But first, some unfinished business here in Mississauga.
I will be stepping away from the mayor's chair this January.
But promising first to return to her role to pass the 2024 city budget. Now, Crombie does have strong mayor powers that she can use to help push through the Mississauga budget. In the new year, her attention will have to turn away from this city and toward building broad support and name recognition right across the province. The next provincial election is scheduled for 2026. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Mississauga.
We have some stormy weather in Ottawa. Oh, hello, my friend. I can't hear you, but hopefully we can all hear you soon. I heard you giggle.
We all heard you, Shannon. Yes, to weather next. The big story is the active weather looking to hamper the Monday morning commute. For those of you in Eastern Ontario, a heavy blanket of snow is incoming. This has been a really active day, and it looks to set off the first full week of December on a really active foot as well. Let's take you through what's happened throughout Sunday. We had everything from rain and thunderstorms into southwestern Ontario in the early part of today. About 6 to 8 hours of freezing rain for anywhere from Highway 7 in Bancroft up to the Ottawa Valley area. It'll really eat up the hefty snowfall totals that I'm about to tell you about in just a couple seconds. But look at this. This is accurate satellite and radar. You have moved over to heavy snow. In the nation's capital region, this will be the most sizable snowstorm of the season. Let's talk a little bit about this freezing line because it's been inching dangerously close to the GTA, which is why if you were traveling anywhere on the Highway 7 stretch earlier throughout the day and continues into the overnight period to be a very treacherous place for travel. I'm going to give you the snowfall totals right now, and we'll spell out what Monday morning's commute looks like. Look at this, up to 25 centimeters for those of you in the Ottawa Valley and right into downtown Ottawa as well. You've already got the majority of this 10 to 20 centimeters, but still a little bit more to come into the overnight for those of you who are on the Georgian shores, just to trace around the southern edge of the GTA and the eastern shores of Lake Ontario. Look at Monday morning, a little bit of a lightening up break, maybe for your Monday morning commute in parts of downtown Ottawa, while a little bit of that lake effect snow machine picks up on the Georgian and the Huron shores. But really, it's light flurries throughout the day on Monday. Much of the heaviest snow is coming down as we speak in parts of eastern Ontario at a clip of 2 to 3 centimeters an hour. And the point I want to hit home before I let you go for the long range is that we are very close to the freezing mark right now. This is heavy, wet, shoveling snow that could be treacherous on the roadways and create moisture-laden power lines. We're expecting some power outages as well. I'll go over how much snow is on the ground in the long range.
Okay, thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
We have some sad news to share from the film industry tonight. Acclaimed Canadian filmmaker Charles Officer has died at the age of 48. He was known by many for his innovative work that centered around Black stories, including the CBC television series The Porter and the film Aquila's Escape. He also co-founded Cane Sugar Filmworks with fellow filmmaker Jake Yanowski, where he continued to showcase stories not often seen on the Canadian screen. We spoke to Yanowski tonight about their shared goal, which led to the creation of their film production company.
So for me, there was a value in finding underrepresented voices always as a film producer and uplifting and building those stories. But what I saw in Charles was a really good storyteller. And what we found is that we could balance each other very much, where we were kind of this dynamic duo, this team that felt unstoppable when we worked together.
Says Officer always made time for people and was genuine about building connections with others. Now, we also spoke to an actor who says Officer inspired him to get into the industry.
Well, Charles has such a monumental way of making you feel important. And he has this level of warmth that he just provided on that set. It was a look. It was a look that he gave you. It was such a quiet, unspoken type of look, but it was so powerful. It made you feel confident. And that's what it did for me.
Enzo calls Officer a trailblazer. He says he, like many others, will carry on his legacy by continuing to tell stories that uplift the Black community. Turning to some other news tonight, a new poll suggests Canadians think the Conservatives are the best party to fix the housing crisis. Now, the data comes just as the Conservatives launched a new video. As JP Tasker shows us, it's not your typical political ad.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is blaming the Prime Minister for the housing crisis, and he's released a 15-minute ad on social media to make his case.
It's crazy to think, but in a little under a decade, Canada's housing costs have basically doubled.
Poilievre dissects the housing crunch and blasts the government's record.
Canada's housing costs have risen faster and higher than almost any other country on Earth.
More than 1 million people have already watched a portion of the video. This digital strategist says a lengthy piece like this is a break from tradition.
Rarely, if not ever, do we see, a 15-minute documentary on one specific policy issue. So an unprecedented move to date in Canadian politics.
Even before the ad, the leader's pointed message was resonating with some voters.
After 8 years of Trudeau, life is increasingly a living hell for the working class people of this country.
A new poll from Abacus Data shows the Conservatives have a 19-point lead nationwide. Housing is now the second most important issue among voters surveyed.
As of right now, the Conservatives are best viewed as being able to handle this crisis.
The Liberals know housing is a weak spot for them politically.
I'll hope you'll have seen a shift in approach from the federal government.
Ministers have fanned out across the country to pitch their plan. Money for cities that cut housing-related red tape and low-cost loans for rental construction. The Prime Minister has tried to poke holes in Poilievre's narrative.
He thinks that bullying municipalities and cutting funding for affordable housing will somehow get more shovels in the ground. Well, I think we can all agree that's not responsible leadership.
Economists expect home construction to cool off next year. Higher interest rates have pushed up the cost to build. That's a problem. Federal data suggests the country needs 3.5 million more homes by the end of the decade. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
Education workers with the Peel District School Board have voted 98% in favor of strike action. Now, this comes as talks continue between the board and the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, Local 2100.
I'm hopeful that the board will see that 4,000 members are ready to walk. We're ready to stand up for our rights and the rights of the students that we support, and say, if you're not willing to give us anything back, we're out.
As you heard her just say, the branch represents about 4,000 workers, including EAs, early childhood educators, and child and youth care practitioners. Now, the union says After 7 months of bargaining, there are still several outstanding issues, including staff-to-student ratios, workloads, resources, as well as health and safety challenges. The union president says there is a conciliation meeting scheduled for Tuesday. Now, the board did not respond to our request for comment.
Hey, I don't need a spa. I need some food and a place to live.
A message for Premier Doug Ford for some musicians and residents gathering today for a live telethon organized by the group Ontario Place for All and the community newspaper West End Phoenix. They're voicing concerns about a controversial bill that was just introduced on Monday. It gives the province power to speed up the redevelopment of Ontario Place. Organizers are hoping today's event will inspire people right across the province to take action.
We are trying to send the message with like amazing Ontario musical acts and performances all across Ontario to encourage every Ontarian to use this telethon and call their MPP. Get on the phone now and call your MPP and demand that they stand up for an Ontario Place for All.
The new bill was introduced after a deal between Ford and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow would see the province take control of 2 Toronto highways, and the city approved the province's plans to redevelop Ontario Place. There is a looming deadline coming up for thousands of small business owners across Canada. They have to repay their government pandemic loans by next month. As Alison Northcott shows us, some say that could actually put them out of business.
Voilà. This Montreal business owner recently held a big sale of her locally made clothing. The goal, she told customers in this video, was to pay off the federal government loan she got at the height of the pandemic.
Is it something that's been weighing on you?
Yeah, for all year. I was thinking about it, like, what's my plan?
The sale helped raise about half the amount she needs. With the repayment deadline just weeks away, she's trying to figure out the rest.
I was calling my bank, like, to see what could I do and what they can do for me.
Hers is one of 900,000 businesses that took out federal government-backed loans to stay afloat during the pandemic, up to $60,000, $20,000 of which would be forgiven, but only if the other $40,000 is repaid by the January deadline.
At least a third of them say that they don't have the money.
The government did extend the original December 31st deadline, but only to January 18th. Ottawa says businesses in the midst of refinancing can have until the end of March to repay.
And that's when they're going to lose the forgivable portion, and many are saying they may lose their business.
Along with the pandemic, this gym owner says businesses are dealing with inflation and higher interest rates.
We need a little bit more time because everything post-pandemic has changed. I've never dealt with stress like this before in my life. Like, you put everything into your business and then it can be taken away from you.
While many businesses have been able to repay, others are turning to the bank.
They don't necessarily have a solution right now. Try to see with us if we can lend the money. Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no.
Marilyn Barry got a bank loan, but with a 12.7% interest rate.
It's a lot in interest for me, but I didn't have the choice.
She still hopes to find another way to pay the original loan instead. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
For the past few days, we've been telling you about the search for a missing kangaroo in Oshawa. So far, no luck for the team that's trying to find and safely capture the animal. The park supervisor at Oshawa Zoo tells us today they found some potential signs, but will have to resume the search tomorrow morning in the north end of Oshawa. That's him there running along a path. The kangaroo was being transported to a zoo in Quebec when she jumped over her handlers and escaped on Friday. The team says if anyone spots the kangaroo, to please contact Team Chelsea. Now, that's an organization that helps people find lost pets. We're heading into a quick break. We'll be back with you in 3 minutes. Today marks the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Now, this weekend saw some new federal funding announced to prepare people with disabilities for jobs in the digital economy.
I think it's really important that we're very deliberate in investments to communities, to individuals with disabilities, Canadians with disabilities, to get that support. And it's really important we do that with organizations like March for Dimes.
The program is called Skilling Up and is offered by March of Dimes. The charity is getting $600,000 from the Government of Canada, which will double the number of people in the free digital skills program to more than 1,000 across Canada. Trainees can qualify for certification from Microsoft. You're about to meet a 15-year-old from Mississauga who is passionate about music and helping others. She started a charity 2 years ago that brings music therapy into classrooms across the GTA. The goal is to bring fun and joy to children with developmental delays.
Oh, what fun it is to ring the colored bells today. Hey.
Inside the sensory room at Henry Hudson Senior Public School, students are immersed in song.
Ring the orange bells. Yavi. Yeah, good job, Yavi.
While it may look like any other lesson, this is music therapy.
The goal of music therapy is not necessarily musical goals. In our classroom setting, it's more educational, social, emotional, communicative, and cognitive. And like the movements with the jingle bells, we were seeing also like self-awareness with like what color bells they're holding. I try and focus in sometimes on individuals where I'll bring the instrument to them and try and see if they'll play, and you know, through that you're creating a connection every time. You do the hokey pokey.
Helping make those connections is Music for Every Child, an entirely youth-led charity, all started by 15-year-old Samantha Fung.
So I actually first got the idea when I was volunteering in my elementary school before the pandemic. So I was helping kids with developmental disabilities, and I was just inspired by how positive they were despite all the challenges they had. But then during the pandemic, me and my friends faced like a lot of setbacks due to online learning. I wasn't allowed to volunteer in person, of course, and I just wanted to find another way to help. So I started Music for Every Child with 3 of my friends, and really we had no end goal. It was just what small things could we do to help the community, and now it's like come so far.
Can you believe actually how far it's come? Like you're in about 4 different cities across the GTA?
Yeah, I really can't believe it. So we had a connection to music. We all play like an instrument, and we understood how music is like a universal language and helps us connect. And personally, like music has helped me get through so many like setbacks during COVID, and like I wasn't able to interact socially a lot. And we started our first school in Mississauga 2 years ago. And from then on, like we realized how much of a need this was, and schools kept reaching out, and now we're operating in 12 schools across Ontario.
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Good job. Okay.
You're looking at Ottawa this hour. There's a winter storm warning for the Gatineau region. Environment Canada says the area could be slammed with up to 15 centimeters of snow, and it's expected to keep falling overnight. Sophia is back right after this commercial break for your long-range forecast. Dream big. That's the message Masai Ujiri, the president of the Toronto Raptors, has been sharing for the past 2 decades, all part of his Giants of Africa Foundation. This weekend saw 3 days full of events to celebrate its 20th anniversary.
You know, it's all about the youth. I think the future of the world is the youth of today. And we have to figure out a way, a path to really encourage them. We're going through tough times in the world. Yeah, people are worried about which sides they take, who they affiliate with, and what they say. I say we all go down to the basics and be good people.
You're looking at tonight's Dream Big fundraising gala, all in support of the organization's ongoing mission to empower African youth. Since 2003, it's been building basketball courts and offering skills camps across 17 countries throughout Africa, impacting more than 40,000 youth. Sophia is joining us once again, talking about lots of snow and warning us to be careful out there on the roads, depending where you live.
Plan ahead, especially in parts of Eastern Ontario, because it's going to be slow going. How does 15 to 25 centimeters sound? There is already a ton on the ground for some parts of our province, but others in parts of the south are thinking, what's snow? A bit of a snow drought going on in the GTA and in southwestern Ontario. Here's the tricky part though. Temperatures all across the region are hovering around the freezing mark. So any of the snow falling is that heavy, wet, moisture-laden, really hard to shovel stuff. We have just seen the changeover to snow in the last hour or two. Before that, anywhere from Caledar up to the Ottawa Valley was into a few hours of freezing rain. We had rain and thunderstorms in the south as well. Let's talk a little bit about that snow. Monday morning, it begins to lighten up, but still, as we mentioned, really brace for delays and for many uncleared roadways into Monday morning. Very slow commutes and potential treacherous travel as some of that snow will be blowing around as well. You're wondering how much snow is on the ground for your friends and family on the Georgian shores or in the nation's capital region? Anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters already on the ground before this recent Texas low came barreling up with all the Gulf moisture. To the south into Monday around the Golden Horseshoe and in Lake Ontario region, just a whole lot of cloud, that gloomy early December cloud that we've had for the past week or so, and temperatures that for Monday to start off the first full week of December are right bang on seasonal. A clear Monday and a ray of light at the end of the tunnel, Shannon. This big ridge of high pressure in the west coast bringing unseasonable warmth there will be coming to us a little bit more muted, but by the end of the work week, we're looking at temperatures that are anywhere from 2 to 6 degrees above seasonal. So a nice warm stretch into next weekend after we get past this bout of active weather in parts of Eastern Ontario to start off the work week. Shannon.
Wow, what a ride. Be safe out there, folks, if you're in the east part of the province, eh?
You got it.
Thanks so much, Sophia. Well, it's a holiday tradition for many shoppers in Toronto, the one-of-a-kind winter show.
Our show is all about championing small businesses. So everyone you see at the show are artisans that are also entrepreneurs, and they create everything with love and intention.
Some 650 artisans from all across Canada taking part, selling everything from food to furniture, arts, and clothing. The show started back in 1948. Today was I think that's wrong, sorry, but it's been around for a while. Today was the final day for this year's winter edition. If you missed out, don't worry, the spring show comes in March. That's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. We leave you with a look at Nathan Phillips Square, looking pretty festive.